Hello and welcome back, DC fans. We all know that Jason Momoa has been cast as the infamous Lobo in the DCU, so it is of course very normal for people to ask questions about the main man, especially because Jason Momoa looks exactly almost like the comic version of Lobo. It has been confirmed that Jason Momoa will be playing Lobo, and honestly that's amazing, because say what you want, but Jason Momoa was built to play Lobo, and Lobo is such an amazingly terrifying character to play. But the terrifying thing about Lobo is that because not only is he built like he benches the Hulk for warmups, he is also an organism that really shouldn't exist. But we'll talk about that later in the video, because you know, he killed his entire species, and his species wasn't easy to kill. So far, due to teasers and fan-made videos, we are all aware that Lobo is definitely a character who loves to fight, and the only thing that he likes to do more than fight is fighting himself. Now, I'm sure you are all confused enough, so in order to keep the suspense going, let's get right into the video so that you can understand exactly what I mean. Here are 9 insane physiological facts about Lobo. With all that being said, let's look into his body and see how he manages to do all the things we see him do. Who is Lobo? We all know Superman and Batman from the DC comics and the numerous movies that have been made on them, but comparatively and honestly surprisingly, very few people are actually aware of who Lobo truly is. In order for us to understand this complex character, we need to rewind a bit. Imagine a planet called Zarnia that is quite literally the definition of paradise. A place where there are no wars, no crimes, basically a place where most people would die to live in. Sounds amazing, right? Well, one day a kid was born in this place whose birth itself was so fundamentally wrong that the nurse who helped deliver him went crazy right then and there. This planet had not seen anyone have a mental breakdown in over 10,000 years, yet as soon as Lobo was born, his evil aura drove her crazy. But this was not it. Soon after he was delivered, infant Lobo chewed off 4 of her fingers, right on day 1. For years, Lobo was feared by everyone, but Lobo, he was bored. He wanted to be unique, so as some sort of a lab experiment, he decided to release a specially engineered swarm of lethal scorpion creatures that ended up killing each and every one of the Zarnians on the planet. All 5 billion were dead, and Lobo gave himself an A, not even an A+. Fast forward to the present, Lobo is now an interstellar bounty hunter who has the ability to go up against even the likes of Superman, and he has proven this over and over again in numerous comic books. The only thing that is just as crazy as his personality is his biology, so let's see what he is hiding under his sleeves. What does it mean to be a Zarnian, and was Lobo special even among them? The one thing that people fail to realize is that the Zarnians were not just some fragile species who couldn't do anything by themselves. In reality, Zarnians were already on par with Kryptonians because they had super strength, super durability, amazing regenerative capabilities, and they also had lifespans that could stretch on for centuries. If we took a look at their species from a galactic standard view, they were more than clearly on the apex tier. From a galactic standpoint, they were already pretty high on the list. So now I guess it's easier to understand that Lobo did not just kill a few helpless pacifists. He wiped out an entire species of near immortals. And honestly, I can't think of many things that can be as terrifying as this. To add on to this, Lobo was so freaking smart that when he engineered his scorpion plague, he made sure to create them in such a way that the plague could directly counter the Zarnian species' regenerative abilities. The funniest part about all this is what makes him stand out, and that is the fact that the plague did in fact kill all 5 billion Zarnians, except him. His body was also exposed to this plague, but it had absolutely no effect on him whatsoever. So either Lobo had some genetic mutation that made him completely immune to any or all weaknesses the Zarnians possessed, or he was the worst of the bunch, a biological defect that somehow turned out to be superior to the original species. A biological defect that somehow turned out to be the best of the species that has ever been. How did he kill his own species? It would be easier to say, oh, Lobo? He just went on a rampage. He swung his weapon left and right, taking out everyone with him. But that would be too easy. And Lobo? He isn't about that life. What he did was so much more calculated than that. See, Lobo, as I mentioned, is freakishly smart. And using those smarts, he engineered a bioweapon from scratch for what he called a science project. Yeah, I'm not kidding. He designed and released a swarm of lethal scorpion-like creatures with a virus in them, which could get past the Zarnian regeneration and kill them. This is a calculated genocidal move, and it worked. Zarnians were one of the apex tier species in the entire galaxy for a reason. Their healing factor was their defining trait, and Lobo basically reverse engineered from that biological advantage and created something specifically to shut it down. That's like if a kid in someone's garage for a science project found a medicine to wipe out all of our white blood cells and prevent regeneration of white blood cells. With that, even a common cold could be a death sentence for a healthy adult. Well, technically that is how HIV works, so in a way, you could say that Lobo created HIV for Zarnians. I guess that would be CIV then. And this plague that Lobo designed oh so carefully worked on everyone. Every single one of the 5 billion Zarnians who had super strength, who had regeneration, who had long lifespans, all of them got wiped out. Lobo survived because his body, despite being exposed to the plague, did not react. It could mean two things. Either A, he was carrying some unique biological mutation that made him immune to the specific kill switch he designed from scratch, which means even without realizing, our boy created the kill switch, bypassing his own biology. Or B, maybe he just was built differently. His body simply didn't register the plague as the plague. Either way, what a horrifying character. How strong is he compared to Superman? This has been a debate for years, and almost every comic fan jumps from taking Superman's side to Lobo's side at least once. So let's settle this once and for all. According to comics, Lobo has gone toe-to-toe with Superman on numerous occasions, and in almost all editions, Superman has always had a slight upper hand in these battles, but barely. This means that Lobo is most definitely on par with a Kryptonian powered by the yellow sun. And when I say on par, I mean on par, because Lobo has shown that he has the strength to knock out Superman with just one punch. This is a feat Darkseid can only dream of pulling off. But here is the one major difference that makes or breaks this argument. Superman's entire strength comes from solar energy, especially the yellow sun. So if he were deprived of it, Superman could potentially become as weak as a fragile human, whereas Lobo's strength is entirely due to his Zarnian biology. So that match would be very different from most of the matchups they have had. To put it simply, his body just doesn't stop. It doesn't drain, it doesn't tire, it has no dependency on external things. We'll come to it, don't worry. And with all of that in mind, there's no way someone can just one-up him. Plus, Lobo does not hold back, and he has no ethical codes that stop him from doing anything and everything in order to win the fight. Unlike Superman, so if this fight ever happened, I wouldn't bet on Supes. Can Lobo actually die? In short, the real answer is no. There are actually two very big reasons for it, so let's go through them one by one. Firstly, Lobo has canonically died, but when he went to Hell, he did not just make that place more disruptive than ever before. He caused chaos, but he also staged a hostile takeover that forced Hell to literally throw him out. And if it has the potential to do that in literal freaking Hell, then it is obvious, and it goes without saying, that even Heaven did not accept him. Both Heaven and Hell had to literally sit together, gather their paperwork on this abomination, and both of them said nope before permanently banning him from those places forever. Like, seriously, his cosmic file was quite literally stamped untouchable, and even the decree was signed by someone named Derek and CC'd to every level 1 god, goddess, devil, and death in existence. So with this big cosmic rejection, that means there is no kind of afterlife for him to go to, no matter which religion you are thinking of. So in short, yet again, his soul has no place to go, and every time his body dies, it is quite literally forced to regenerate in order to keep his soul in it. That second. And probably one of the most important facts about him is that Lobo did not just kill his race for fun. I mean, he did, but he was also aware that due to how strong Zarnians could regenerate, they could only be killed by another Zarnian. So in order to make sure he was effectively immortal, he got rid of the only thing that could potentially put a full stop to his story. At this point, Lobo is more or less stuck being alive because the universe has no place to keep him, nor his soul. So, in a way, you can say that Lobo isn't stuck in the universe. The universe is stuck with Lobo. His existence is pretty much set in stone, and no one can get rid of it. How does his regeneration work? Once the conversation shifts to how Lobo's regenerative abilities actually work, that is when his entire biology stops making any sense whatsoever. Lobo is such an extreme level of Zarnian that every single one of his cells carries the exact blueprint of his entire body. So he is kind of like the Thing in a way. Every single cell of his body has the entire blueprint of him. So this guy can quite literally regenerate his entire body from a single drop of blood. Hell, I am sure that he can regenerate from a single cell. It does not matter what happens to him because he will be back. Try to vaporize him, he will reform. Throw him into acid, he will simply walk out. You grab his head and completely chop it off, does not matter. As long as he has just one surviving cell, he will keep coming back. You thought this was bad, right? Well, this part is even more chaotic because imagine you slash this guy's arm and make him bleed. You would think that he just regenerates, and you are half correct, but the other thing that can and has happened is the fact that from every single cell that has been spilled, he can create new Lobos. These mother huggers have coexisted while the main body has been destroyed, and even then, because Lobo is such an egotistical maniac, when his clones meet each other, they freaking fight each other to death. Like, seriously, get this character away from me. Zarnian blood stores memory and identity. I want to say I'm surprised, but I really am not, because at this point, Lobo's biology is simply terrifying. Because, okay, get this. When Lobo bleeds, a new Lobo can show up from that drop of blood. And this new Lobo that's created has the physique and the abilities of Lobo, yes, but it also has every single memory of Lobo. Like literally every single drop of Lobo's blood that falls on the ground can produce more Lobos who act like him, think like him, carry the same personality, and of course, fight like him. It sounds like cloning, but it isn't cloning, not in the traditional sense at least. Because see, in biology, no matter how hard you try to give all the clones the exact same stimuli at the exact same time, individualism will always creep in because everyone experiences the same thing differently. But Lobo, on the other hand, basically does mitosis of everything. In mitosis, the mother cell divides and we end up with two sister cells that have the same properties as the mother cell, right? It's the same kind of duplication, and because each Lobo born from blood has the same conviction as the original Lobo, which is definitely bad news for everyone involved, including Lobo himself. The clone problem. So here is what actually happens when you put multiple Lobos in the same space. Imagine you slash this guy's arm and make him bleed. You would think he just regenerates, and you are half correct. But the other thing that can and has happened is the fact that from every single cell that has been spilled, he can create new Lobos. These new Lobos have coexisted while the main body has been destroyed, and even then, because Lobo is such an egotistical maniac, when his clones meet each other, they freaking fight each other to death. Because think about it, if every cell carries the complete identity information with the personality and memories and all, then every clone that emerges genuinely believes that it is, in fact, the real one. They are all Lobo, and they all know that they are Lobo, and obviously they do not want to share their identity with anyone else. So every single time they fight until only one is left standing. It's almost like Lobo's biology itself has this little built-in mechanism to keep Lobo from running the world with an army of himself. It is to enforce biological uniqueness through mutual destruction. And even though I have always been a firm believer in pacifism, I am hella happy that his cells cannot coexist. Because no, absolutely not. If Lobo didn't have this mechanism, he would have become a conqueror. And I don't want Lobo conquering everything, thank you. The Apocalypse Incident. Now that we know how his cloning works and how this could go horribly wrong, let me tell you about the single most unhinged military incident in all of comic history. So young Lobo, rather Lil Lobo, was killed on the battlefield. His blood hit the ground and every single drop of his blood turned into a new Lil Lobo. So soon enough, there was a fully functional and extremely violent army of Lobos, each one completely convinced that they were the real ones. And with all of that rage, super strength, durability, healing, and blood cloning, the army rained down on Apocalypse, the planet ruled by Darkseid, which you know is the most fortified and hostile location in the DC universe. And guess what? Lobo Army won. They tore through Apocalypse without even a semblance of teamwork, because each of them was just as destructive and egotistical. And then, once destroying Apocalypse was done, they turned on each other. The biological uniqueness enforcement I was telling you guys about? Yeah, that kicked in, and the invading army that had everyone in Apocalypse shocked and injured turned into a giant battle royale. The army just collapsed into itself, and only one Lobo is left. This is why I said I am glad they are violent, because look me in the eyes and tell me honestly, do you really think Lobo wouldn't rule the world? Is his blood toxic? Okay, so let's just imagine you, a brave warrior, have decided to go up against this abomination named Lobo. Pretty brave, honestly. Now, let's say that you even managed to cut him and he doesn't make infinite copies of himself. Impressive. But now you are most probably going to have a much tougher time because what you just did not just affect you in battle, but your surrounding area too. The reason I'm saying this is because Lobo's blood is hella toxic to anyone who does not belong to his species. And the last time I checked, you are not a Zarnian. The reason for this toxic blood is actually how the species survived without anyone bothering them. Due to them being such a peaceful species, of course, many must have tried to at least take over their planet, but most probably, every single one of them must have learned that making a Zarnian bleed is probably not the best idea they have had. According to comics, whenever Lobo has been stabbed, the weapon that has been used to stab him has instantly melted within a few seconds, even if it is one of the strongest metals ever. And by any chance, if any of his blood sprays on you, it's goodbye for you. Honestly, it's just not worth it to fight him, at least alone for sure. His senses ignore physics. Sounds kinda crazy, right? I know, but trust me, I'm not kidding. So Lobo has superhuman senses that actually allow him to track targets across interstellar distances. Imagine the Shershu from Avatar: The Last Airbender. And his olfactory senses are so heightened that he can literally track smell across the vacuum of space. That shouldn't be possible because, smell needs something to hold on to. There has to be something where the scent can flow, and space is extremely popular for not having any of those. The scent particles have no medium in space to travel through, so whatever his sensory system is doing, it is out of this world, like quite literally. And since the universe clearly loves Lobo so much, his hearing is also at this level. What I mean is, his hearing can literally function without air. In space, there is no medium, which means there is no sound because sound requires a medium to travel through, vibrations and all. And yet, here we have Lobo, who regularly exists in space without anything holding him back. His ears literally understand sound in ways that I cannot even begin to explain. Where is air pressure? Where are the little bones inside the ear that vibrate against the eardrum and amplify the noise? Where's the cochlea? Who knows? Lobo is just so special that he probably doesn't need any of that. Physics? Who's that? This is Lobo, and Lobo couldn't care any less about it. He does not age. Yeah, I know, God just kept giving Lobo gift after gift. Lobo is immune to the effects of aging. Yeah, immunity to the aging process, that's the secret. His regenerative system literally works all the time to maintain his cellular structure at its peak state. Not a single one of his cells showed degradation or decline or even accumulated wear and tear after a while, which, might I add, should be normal. But nope, his cells have basically stopped the biological clock in a way. And as a result of that, Lobo is unkillable across time. No matter when you show up to kill Lobo, be it in the past, present, or the future, you will never catch him lacking. He is basically timeless. Does he need to eat, drink, or breathe? Lobo is such an iconic character that almost every time he has made an appearance on screen, he is either eating, drinking, or at least smoking a cigar. So many fans believe that he must need the food to survive. Like, why would the writers waste their time drawing something that is completely unnecessary, right? Nope. The truth is that he indulges in all of it because he likes to do so. There is quite literally no other reason whatsoever. Lobo's body is completely self-sustaining. Lobo travels for infinitely long distances in a vacuum where there is no oxygen and no atmospheric pressure, and it does not bother him in the least. Time without eating any food or water, and I am sure he was most definitely dying to take a puff from a cigar, but still, not a necessity. So it's kinda clear that every time Lobo takes a bite of food or cracks open a drink, it is completely a creative choice to give his character something to do. And honestly, it plays really well into his character too, because, be honest, if you were the most unlikable person in the entire universe with zero biological need to ingest anything in order to survive, wouldn't you also spend your free time doing the most gratuitously self-indulgent things possible? Because I for sure would. What are his actual weaknesses? We've been talking about how freakishly overpowered Lobo is for far too long, so let's talk about his weaknesses too. Firstly, I want to make it crystal clear that Lobo is not invincible. He can be stabbed, decapitated, blown up, and even beaten. Superman has done it. Darkseid has overpowered him. Hell, even Wonder Woman has defeated him. Lobo is also weak to magic like Supes, is mildly inconvenienced by telepathy, and if his opponent is strong enough to damage him so heavily that he cannot regenerate as fast, then he can be captured too. So yes, Lobo does in fact have a ceiling, and strong enough opponents can most definitely reach it. But there is still one thing that people have to understand. Beating Lobo and stopping Lobo are two completely different things. You might win the war today, but tomorrow he'll be back, fully healed, fully functional, with that evil smile on his face while lighting a cigar. As I said, he is not invincible, but he is inevitable, and that is far, far scarier. The only thing that could kill him was only another Zarnian, because that is one of the only things built in the Zarnian biology. But he has already dealt with that problem long ago, so there's no point pondering about that anymore. Special facts about Lobo that you cannot miss. Before we go down the rabbit hole that is his physique, I want to take a quick break to tell you guys two insane things about Lobo that are very much canon. Did you know that Lobo, at various points in the comics, has killed both God, yes, the deity, and Dave? You know, the characters who represent literal divine tier entities? As a matter of fact, he killed God and got paid for it because the monks on planet Paradise needed their deity God dead. But wait, that's not all. He was also contracted by the Easter Bunny to assassinate Santa Claus. And yes, our space biker bounty hunter man did that. In Lobo Paramilitary Christmas Special, which came out in 1992, we see Lobo hunt down Santa Claus and kill him. Look, I'm not saying you should take these seriously and hate on Lobo. The only reason I'm telling you about these incidents is so that you know what kind of powerful people Lobo has faced and still managed to come out on top. I mean, if you are out and about killing omnipotent beings in the patron saint of Christmas and you came out on top, you truly are an extraordinary level of threat. Hell no, like absolutely not. Imagine an organism wanted to have the same regenerative functions as Lobo. That would mean that each cell of that organism would have to store and have the power to recreate the complete biological blueprint for an entire organism, including memories and even the entire personality. And if you know how DNA works, you would know that this is not even remotely close to DNA's functionality. And honestly, that is the whole point of a character like Lobo. Lobo is not some organism that slowly evolved to turn into an abomination like this. Lobo is something that happens when you take all the rules of biology and throw them out of the window. He is not some example of extreme evolution. Lobo is what life looks like when it does not have any rules to follow. Lobo is just an extreme example of biology that keeps on going. He is biologically impossible, yes, but when he is in a room with you, you better believe he is as real a threat as could ever be. And there you go, we are finally done talking about this freakishly strong character and his insane physiological and interesting facts that even made me question if he was even meant to be this strong. Lobo, in all his impossible, rule-breaking, universe-ignoring, and biology-defying glory. Like, Lobo is a species that is as strong as Kryptonians, 10 times smarter, yet produced only one person like him, and instead of being the species' saving grace, he decided to Alt F4 all of them from the universe forever. If Lobo were real, his muscle density alone would be enough to collapse his entire system under the gravitational weight before he would even be able to light a single cigar, much less throw a punch. Even his immortality straight up violates the entire universe's most non-negotiable rule: entropy. Another reason why anything even remotely similar to Lobo can never exist is his toxic blood. His blood is so corrosive and toxic that even his own body would immediately get poisoned from the very inside. And do not even get me started on the vacuum survival part, because if any organism tried to survive in a vacuum without a protective layer over it, it would instantly be disobeying the laws of thermodynamics. Every single system in Lobo's body breaks a foundational rule of biology. Not bends, breaks. This character is so broken that even when he does not have a weapon, his blood turns out to be one, and crazily, he needs nothing to survive. Lobo is a character who does anything and everything just because he can. The man is less a living organism and more a biological argument that some things simply refuse to stop existing. I am so freaking excited to see Jason Momoa play this character because I am aware of how much he wants to redeem himself after playing Aquaman, but even more so because he was literally made to play this character. And if the live-action Lobo is even half as good as the comic version, I am telling you, the DCU might just have a new big bad. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button, smash the subscribe button, and let us know in the comments if you enjoy watching videos just like this. I promise to bring you even more character breakdowns in our upcoming videos. So till then, peace out!